We know that about 80% of brain development happens in the first 5 years of life. We know now the impacts of adverse childhood experiences now. We didn't even talk about that a decade ago. We know now the impacts of trauma. So I think the First Lady and people like Linda Smith nationally who led the way to really talk in a different way about how we respond to some of these issues. Imagine if every child in Illinois had a home visit. Imagine if every parent in Illinois understood the issues of behavioral health and the services that were out there for them. Imagine if every child in Illinois had a connection between Head Start, which is one of those, I think, landmark pieces of legislation that passed in the 50s. If we really had a transition from Head Start into the public school system where parental engagement was really encouraged. Imagine what that Illinois would look like under that. So the First Lady was on the board of the Ounce of Prevention. Then she became executive director of the Ounce, I think, in 2011, or somewhere there. It is something that is a Head Start sub-grantee, actively involved in home visiting, a $60 million budget, and I would point out she's a Democrat. She got her PhD in developmental psychology from the University of Chicago, an MBA from Stanford School of Business, and to top that all off, she got her undergraduate degree at Yale. I was so pleased just to graduate from Florida State University. Let me introduce to you the First Lady of Illinois, Diana Rauner.
Thank you, Director Shelton. Good afternoon. It's such a thrill to be here at this inaugural summit with such a group of folks who are so committed to the transformation of our child welfare system, the bedrock of serving the most vulnerable children in our state. And as one who has spent my professional career devoted to this issue long before I got this recent gig, I've been an advocate when it was time to stand up for advocates. I'm an advocate, and so I have to take a minute and acknowledge the people at the table here. For many of us who have been toiling in the human services world for years, to see the level of commitment, collaboration, creativity, and devotion to the most vulnerable people in our state here assembled and created this waiver. We just have to have a round of applause for these people. We don't always get that, and we are thrilled and grateful to have it here. I wanted to also apologize. I snuck on the stage because I was coming from another event this morning that the Schreiber Center held called Justice from the Start, looking at access to early childhood programs, racial equity and access to early childhood programs for infants and toddlers. And I say that because we have long recognized, and I know I'm speaking to the choir here when I say that prevention, giving young children, access to high quality supports and their families, to the kinds of supports that can set them on a path for healthy development, that really is the answer. And we know that, as we often say at the Ounce, changing child behavior is quite easy because children are designed to develop healthily. It's changing the behavior of adults that's challenging. So that really is the work, and that is the work, of course, of the 1115 waiver, training and supporting professionals so that they can do their work differently. I'm very, very excited about the initiatives for early childhood in the 1115 waiver, specifically the early childhood mental health consultation efforts. Again, going back to justice, we know now that children of color and boys are disproportionately expelled from school throughout the life cycle. And children are expelled from early childhood programs, preschool programs, at a rate somewhere between 4 and 10 times the rate in K-12 education. People don't know that. We don't think about what that means. But imagine when you're kicking a 3-year-old boy out of a preschool program, what comes next? And after that, and after that. So being able to invest in professional development and support for teachers so that they can help those young children manage their behavior, be successful in their earliest education programs, it's only going to help us throughout those children's life cycle. And of course, as we hope the federal government will understand, will allow us to save money on them in the long run for all sorts of ways. Similarly, helping the most vulnerable parents become better parents early on is, again, it's such a no-brainer. We have decades of research on the return on investment of investing in parenting in the first few years of life and preventing the kinds of trauma and adverse child experiences that we will have to pay for in years to come. So I just want to add my congratulations, my thanks, my appreciation to all of you for joining us on this path of transformation. It's a very, very exciting time in Illinois. It's a very, very exciting time for those of us who care so much about prevention and evidence-based work. And again, thank you very much to the leaders here who have driven this change.